Hello, hello. Here we are again, coming to you from Broadcast Team Alpha on 44 different platforms around the world. And we're going to have some fun tonight. This is going to be a learning experience. And my name is Aage, and my co host could not be here tonight. So we will just muddle through on our own, and I'll see what I can do. And yes, we are also transmitting on the Conscious Awakening Network. And folks, you got to go over there and have a look at that. We got close to 50 different shows over there that talk about all the stuff that we're not supposed to know about and what you and me need to know about. And then I want to tell you how you can get a hold of me. Go to broadcastteamalpha.com and find the contact feature, send us an email, and I'll get the email and we'll send it back to you and see what we can do for you. And yes, I want to introduce two gentlemen with tremendous capacity of creation. I'm
Aage,
going to
introduce Dr. Brandenburg first. I like to say age before beauty, and he's older and better looking.
I think you should introduce Bob first, myself, but that's okay.
All right, that's good. Yeah, well, there's like the saying goes, that there's many paths to the top of the mountain. That's the only one top. So
that's one of my favorites. One of my favorite sayings.
There you go. There you go. Then I want to introduce John Brandenburg first, and I really have to apologize to you, John, because when we made out the flyer, we did not have your picture and your information yet. So that's the only reason that Robert is the only one on there. But here you are. Yeah, so don't worry about it.
Oh, that's okay. That's all right.
Yeah,
that's all right.
Yeah, this happened so quickly that we just had to roll with the punches. But I have known of you, John, for a long time, probably 20 more years. All the way back when you were doing some things, about the pyramids on Mars, and you were investigating some pictures with Hoagland. And
yes.
I interviewed Hoagland on my TV show in Tucson, and he talked very highly of you, and that's where
Oh, he's a brilliant man, and
yes.
he did organize the initial investigation that got everything going.
Yes, he did. And John, you are an author, you are a scientist, and a plasma physicist, and
yes.
Now you are an independent consultant, and you're the originator of the GEM unification theory. That has something to do with gravity. And
yes, it does.
Yeah, that's actually what it does is that you turn things around so that gravity don't only work this way, it works that way and this way. so, so that's kind of unique. And you are an inventor and a developer of the microwave electro terminal thruster, which is used in space right now as a propulsion system. Yeah. And you worked at the Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory, and you worked on controlled fusion, directed energy weapon, and CDI and NASA mission to Mars. So you are one of the most accomplished people that I have ever run into. You got some books out, and one of them is Death on Mars. And I can't mention all of them. Beyond Einstein's Unified.
I am half Icelandic. This is how I did this all.
Okay, all right. Yeah, and then you have there was Beyond Einstein's Unified Field. And you have an article out that really raised my eyebrows, and that is the collapse of the UFO cover-up. And there's a lot more. I can't read your bio because then there will be no more time left for you to talk.
Well,
so then we're back to the top of the mountain with Robert Morningstar.
There we are.
Everybody knows Robert. He is everywhere. He's got a long bio too, and he's a
Yeah, you can make it
tremendous researcher. And he is or still is an intelligent analyst, an investigative journalist, and expert in Chinese languages and history and martial arts. And he's a master in family Tai Chi Quan by the Hong Kong Tai Chi Master Association. And he has taught at several universities, and special to me, he is also a licensed pilot. Gosh, he can't be bad. He's
There
a
you
pilot.
go.
May
There
I
you
say
go.
something? May I say something, Augie, on this note? Since we're speaking through Norway, I'd like to
Yeah.
send I'd like to send my greetings to the best pilot I ever flew with. He's Norwegian. His name is Lars Eversoy, and
Oh,
he
yeah.
helped me get back in the 1980s and 90s. Lars,
All right. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's good. All right. Well, I tell you, I'm just losing myself here going through your bio, but you're a sought after guest on radio and TV, and you have spoken very extensively on bases on the moon. You are on Coast to Coast radio show all the time, and Red Eyes, and many, many others. So, gosh, I'm going to quit talking. I've been talking way too much.
Get on with the
So,
show. Right.
so welcome to the show, guys.
Thank you very much.
Very
Yeah.
good. A pleasure and honor to be on the show.
All right. Thank you. I wonder, we were talking about 3i Atlas. And I
Yes.
think since that is on the marquee, I think we should start there because there's so much. I think half of it disinformation, but you guys are scientists. So I'm going to trust a lot more into what you guys are talking about. And I don't know which one of you want to start out with this, but enlighten us.
Let's go with John because the sirens are blaring here.
Oh, for heaven's sakes. Well, anyway, I was going to sort of go with Bob, but yes, 3i Atlas is the third identified interstellar object that we have been tracking coming through the solar system. It is the fastest one. We had two previous ones, and they set a very important context for this. One was called a Oumuamua. That was the very first one. That one flew out from behind the sun and flew past the Earth quite closely in terms of astronomical distances. And we didn't even see it till it had flown past us. And it made no cometary emissions. It looked like it was just bare metal. And it flew by, and then it sped up as it left. So this looked like a reconnaissance probe that was looking at the Earth, which of course would be the most interesting planet in the solar system. Now, then the next one was just an ordinary comet. It looked like an ordinary comet. It flew like one. It emitted gases like one. It was a dirty snowball, as they say. It was called Borisov after the fellow who named it. And now we have this 3i Atlas, which was just discovered this July. And this one is much faster. It is much bigger than a Oumuamua. And it's not going to pass near the Earth. Instead, it's going to pass near Mars, very close to Mars, and then also close to Jupiter. So it's as if this is part of a campaign to do a reconnaissance of the solar system. And this could be all quite innocent, like the Voyager probes that flew through the outer solar system. It was just to collect information. And so the object 3i Atlas is not flying towards the Earth. What is curious, though, is when it flies near Mars, which is a very interesting and haunted planet in my description. When it flies past Mars, the sun will be between the Earth and Mars, so that we will not be able to observe it. directly
Mm.
with our telescopes. It's as if all of this has, and the coordination of flying first by Mars and then Jupiter, this all looks extremely unlikely to have happened by random chance. Once again, this looks like a planned reconnaissance. And we must also remember that for the past 80 years, the the expression, the elephant in the room in all of this is the UFO cover up and the Mars cover up and the lunar cover up.
Yeah.
So these things are all happening, going on. And what I will just tell you, my optimistic projection is that this probe, this latest probe, will simply fly out of the solar system like the first one did. Um, but it will hasten disclosure by the governments of the world that we are not alone in the universe.
I'm wondering about one thing though. I saw there were some scientists that say that the 3i does not follow exactly along gravitational trajectories.
Yes, I've heard this. I uh, one of Because of the presence of what I call the extraterrestrial cover up, we can't exactly we cannot be certain that the government would even report to
Yeah.
us if it was deviating from its trajectory. But I have heard these reports, but it does not appear that the deviations from its trajectory are large. That it is not turning around and heading towards Earth, which would, of course, create a great crisis if
Yeah.
it did that. Uh, However, we have seen in our own government and also the governments of the Western Alliance, NATO, and others, um, and even Russia being involved in this, a flurry of diplomatic activity supposedly about Ukraine and other things. And what the reports are is that is not, Ukraine is simply window dressing. It is a flag of convenience, as they say. What they are
Yeah.
really being thrown into a crisis over is 3i Atlas. And they are preparing contingency plans if it changes course to head toward Earth.
Well, I don't know though. There is this thing called the fake alien invasion, and this is actually a government document. You can find the doggone thing on the FBI website. If you go into the reading room, and you can find it, you can poke around and find it, and it's quite a voluminous document. The plan is laid out of how they're going to execute this fake alien invasion. And I think if they have the guts to do it, now will be the time because of those things coming through here. So that will be plausible denial.
Uh, this is, what is called a false flag operation.
Yeah.
I know that this was discussed during the Cuban Missile Crisis back in the 60s, that they would create a false crisis to declare a state of national emergency in the United States. But we must, one of the things that governments do is to create a cloud of disinformation. They don't just have one thing. It's
Yeah.
they. If people are looking for stars, they shoot fireworks. So the sky is full of various colored stars, and this has been the UFO, or what I call the extraterrestrial cover up, because it's not just the UFOs, it's Mars, it's also the moon, and now also this three-eye atlas and a Oumuamua. We must realize that the government has Winston Churchill put it this way. He said, he was speaking during World War II, and he said, in wartime, the truth is so precious, it must go everywhere accompanied by a bodyguard of lies.
Yeah.
Now, there are people apparently in our government, of the US government, who view this as an almost warlike situation. And so it's very difficult to figure out what is information and what is disinformation in this situation. And I guess you know what? I'm going to just stop there. I'm just going to say we must be aware that the government is not, its big goal is not to tell the truth. It is to just tell the public enough, as much as it thinks it needs to know, and so that we'll follow orders.
Yeah.
John, I'd like to interject. You said that when people look for stars, they blow fireworks. I would like to say when people see UFOs, they put up drones. And I think that's the answer to that drone
Yes, they do.
fact that we saw. There were real
Yeah.
UFOs, and they just released hundreds and hundreds of military drones. There were some drones up there that were the size of cars. And so I think it was pulling back the veil on the secret space program, and the drones are a big part of it. So that was my solution to that problem that we had in that huge flap that happened over New Jersey, Pennsylvania, New York. It was really all across the country, but it was focused on New Jersey. But there were real UFOs there, spherical UFOs. A professor at Princeton took the most beautiful photograph out his window on a snow-covered New Jersey landscape with a perfect white pearl UFO. And those are UFOs that I have seen myself. I have had at least 9 sightings of UFOs here in New York, all at the same place, all during my Tai Chi classes. And one of them, as a matter of fact, one of them practically waved at me. On June 1st, 2019, I scheduled a Tai Chi class, a Tai Chi seminar at the Soldiers and Sailors Monument at 89th Street and Riverside Drive. It's a beautiful, beautiful Greco-Roman monument, 150 feet high. It's my office. I grew up on it. And I heard an airliner go over the top, and the sound hit me from the marble floor. So I looked up, it was going to LaGuardia. And as I was looking at it, my peripheral vision picked up something that was in the street. It emerged from behind a building and a tree. And my mind was boggled. This sphere, a lead-colored sphere, was as wide as the street. And the street has 2 parking lanes and 2 traffic lanes. So this thing was about 50 feet in diameter. And I'm looking at it floating on next to the second floor of a 15-story building. The thing started to rise very slowly. And again, my brain is trying to be rational and explain what I'm seeing to myself. So I said to myself, am I looking at a lead balloon? Because it was a lead color gray. And it slowly rose up. I have a witness in the room if she cares to testify. So I called to my friend, and we both saw it. And this thing rose in a spherical form till it got about 100 feet above the building, a 12-story building, actually. And then it took a glimmer. There was a glow, like a halo. And it wasn't exactly reflecting the sunlight. The sun, it was afternoon sun, it was behind me. But when it got above the building, this glow came around it. And I thought it started to rotate. And I expected the rotation to stay spherical. But when it rotated, it turned into a disc. It was as if this slowly turned into this. And then it
interesting.
fly very slowly across over the building. Now, the interesting thing is these buildings on Riverside Drive are on a curved boulevard, and the buildings take the curve of the boulevard. It's a very beautiful architecture. So it
Oh,
starts
interesting.
flying over the building, and it starts waving, rolling like this. It's, waving your wings, we say in flying.
Yes, yes.
So I heard this thought, happy flying, Robert. And it went around the mind, took off toward New Jersey.
It was the
2 months later, go ahead, John.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Oh no, I was saying it was attracted by the good vibrations of your Tai Chi class.
I think
Yeah.
it is. Let me tell you something, as long as you mentioned it. I started studying Tai Chi in 1972. I became totally devoted to it because my Tai Chi master, grandmaster, took me under his wing, and I had a very profound spiritual experience when he passed away. He died in China, and 3 days later, he appeared in my living room. I felt frozen, paralyzed, and he came and touched me. Folks, I'll tell you one thing. It's one thing to see a ghost, but be touched by a ghost is a totally different story.
Yeah.
And when he
Sure.
touched me, I felt universal love, but there was a download of information. When he left, I knew things I'd never learned. And
Interesting.
I devoted myself to that, the Chinese language, Tai Chi Chuan. And around 1978, I picked up a book on Chinese history, and it said that the Tang Dynasty Emperor Xuanzong related and had it recorded in the Tang Dynasty, official Tang Dynasty history, that a moon ship came down and landed on the ramparts of the castle in Xi'an. Xi'an is the city where they found the 10,000 terracotta
Oh
soldiers
yes, yes.
Yeah.
and the tomb
Yeah.
of Qin Shi Huang, the
Terracotta
first emperor.
Army.
So he said that the moon ship landed on the castle, on the ramparts, that the moon people came out and invited him to go to Penglai Shan, or Chinese heaven, which they believe is on the moon. He accepted their invitation, and he went with them to the moon, where he was entertained by, quote, beautiful fairies in resplendent rainbow-colored garments, who danced the dance, and he heard celestial music. And the next day, they brought him back. And he described being brought back in the early morning to Xi'an and seeing the tent city that grew around the palace, and the people starting to awaken, and the cows starting to mew, and the cattle waking up, and the people starting their daily routines. And the moon people put him back on the castle ramparts, and they went away. And he turned to his wife and he said, Yang Guifei, my darling wife, you must learn this dance that the people of the moon showed me. I want you to learn it. I want you to learn it before I forget it. And I'm going to write down the music that I heard, the celestial music. And that music
Oh, how interesting.
became known as the Lost Rainbow Air. And because that dance started a revolution in China, which led to the fall of the Tang Dynasty. And the dance and the music was outlawed under penalty of death. And so it went underground, and 200 years
dear.
later, it came out into the surface, disguised as the slow motion dance, Tai Chi Chuan. But John, you said before the show, without rotation, there is no order. And the rainbow dancing, as it was called, was very rapid spin dancing that,
Yes.
like the Sufis, puts you into a mystical state. And I believe it's centrifugal forces. When you spin rapidly, centrifugal forces in your body open up a space inside your body, in the heart, if you're centered. And out of that space, that vacuum, 0 point energy or divinity will manifest itself. So as far as Three Eye Atlas is concerned, I'm very aware of the mythical aspects of it, the legendary aspects of it, and I have my theories about that. John and I talked about the brown dwarf, Planet X, Nibiru. All of these are possibilities. Back to John and Aage.
Well,
Yeah.
just to amplify what Robert was saying, one of the interesting things is 3i means the third eye.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
It is the same time a just a nomenclature description from astronomy, but it's also a mystical statement.
Yes.
This is the
May
third
I add?
eye.
May I add? It's an eye opener.
Yeah.
It is.
So it's giving
It
us
is.
an insight into greater possibilities than the mental midgets' imaginations at NASA. They're trying to put the lid on something that is so great.
Oh,
The
I know.
idea that
Yeah,
higher
I know.
intelligences are interacting with us, and they don't want us to communicate. I was outraged when the Pope said that it's very dangerous for people to have a personal relationship with Jesus Christ unless it's mediated by a priest. You shouldn't do that. And I
When
think
did he say this?
it was Pope Benedict, Pope Francis the Mullah. He said it about 4 years ago, and I was aghast.
Oh dear. Oh
Yeah, well,
dear.
that's where they're going. The Illuminati, the globalists, have hijacked all the world's religions in order to pit us all against each other, but then to sweep them away and produce a global religion that they are manufacturing. But we can talk about that later. I think we could talk about Nibiru or Planet X, because these are serious concepts, right? Planet X.
I would.
I got
Yes,
a question.
Augie. Yeah, yes, Augie. What do you want to say, please?
I got a question on this 3i atlas, and that is that I hear from scientists now saying that they see that there is light reflecting from it or coming from inside. There's two
Yes.
forms. One of them is reflective light, and there's another frequency that show that it should be coming from inside. So the
Yes.
thing may be lit up inside.
Yes.
This is a problem because they cannot figure out what size it is in terms of, there's a core and then it's surrounded by a cloud of gas of composition that they've never seen in a comet, carbon dioxide and almost 100% carbon dioxide and some water vapor. Water vapor they've always seen, but not carbon dioxide. And it's they cannot, it seems to be reflecting, it seems to be sending more light to us than it's receiving from the sun, even if it was a perfect reflector. And the amounts of power that they're calculating, I have done these calculations myself based on the best estimates for its size. This is emitting enough power to power a city of 1 million households. It's called a gigawatt, so this is an enormous amount of power that it has to be emitting. So this is all, I have ranked the evidence for it being artificial in terms of the most important things down to kind of, the least important. The most important is its trajectory, flying past Mars and then Jupiter, and getting and also flying past Mars just so that the sun is in between us and Mars, so we can't watch it have its encounter with Mars. So that the probabilities of that are astronomically small, happening by random chance. This problem of it seems to be emitting more power than it's receiving, its composition, and then not only that, but it's also putting out pure nickel vapor.
Yeah.
And cyanide.
And well, cyanide is seen actually in comets. Cyanide is, of course, a deadly poison, but it's also a very primordial chemical. It's a very primordial chemical that interferes with the body's processing of oxygen. But the reason, the thing that attracts most attention is the pure nickel, because normally in any meteorite or even comets, they have seen nickel, but it's always accompanied by large amounts of iron. Iron and nickel are closely related in terms of nuclear properties and in terms of chemical properties. They're both made by the same process in stars. So when you have one, you have to have the other if this is a natural process. The only place you find pure nickel like this is in technological artifacts. So,
in other words, not natural.
it is not natural, but this finally comes back to, okay, some technology, this represents technology from another star system. And of course, then this enters in very quickly to the extraterrestrial cover-up, and therefore the government can no longer be believed completely when it tells us things. We can't, people have suggested that we could divert a probe from Jupiter to go fly past it when it goes flying past Jupiter. And NASA is absolutely silent on this option.
They don't want it.
Well, yeah, if they took pictures, then the public would want to see the pictures.
Yeah.
And what they would prefer to do is take pictures and then not show them to the public. But that would be impossible if they knew there was a public mission. And the Jet Propulsion Lab, which runs that probe out by Jupiter, and the probe is at an end of life. It's supposed to just plunge down into the atmosphere of Jupiter and burn up. And so, but it still has enough rocket fuel apparently it could actually leave Jupiter's gravity and go chase this thing. And NASA and Jet Propulsion Lab are absolutely silent on this. They won't even discuss it. So that's the final clue, by the way, that this is artificial, because the government won't talk about it. I will mention also something very important. The most important planet, if this is a probe, the most important planet that it's being sent to in terms of the focus of its attention is the planet Mars. And the planet Mars is a planet which apparently has a tragic history. It was the site of Earth-like environment, complete with humanoid culture. There's archaeology there, but then there's also evidence for a thermonuclear holocaust.
Yeah.
And so,
xenon gas.
Yes, a place of great mystery and also tragedy, apparently. And so I have proposed that interpretation based on the scientific data that's been published, and no one who knows anything about it has contradicted me. One fellow said, "Oh, Brandenburg, he shouldn't be saying this," and then so I heard that he had said this. It was on a radio. So I said, "Tell this fellow," I told the talk show host, "tell this fellow I will debate him at any time." And the talk show host got back to me and said, "He is afraid to debate you because you have worked at nuclear weapons labs for 10 years and know far more about nuclear weapons than he does." And I said, "Well, then he should be quiet."
Speaking of weapons, John, if I may,
wait just a second. I see now we're down at the bottom of the hour, and we, for those of you that joined us late, we are talking with Robert Morningstar and John Brandenburg, and we are talking about probes coming in from deep space, 3I Atlas and 2 others. And what are they? So stay with us on this one, because this is going to get deep. I think that maybe NASA could have diverted that probe from Jupiter anyway to take pictures, but they won't tell anybody.
I think
probably
you're right.
did. They probably did. But I wanted to touch on the subject of weaponry and the military-industrial complex. strategy to keep the money rolling in. This
Yeah.
could be quite benign, but they have had this theory that the Earth might be impacted by Apophis or any number of asteroids. And so I think that they're twisting this in order to get funding for more weapons. I would remind everyone that about 2 years ago, Didymus and Dimorphos were twin asteroids, and NASA went up there to test a kinetic weapon and
Yes.
destroyed Dimorphos. But when it destroyed Dimorphos, what was released was not asteroid material. The Dimorphos exploded with far more energy than you would expect from a rock in space, and it covered Didymus with a yellow hue that can only be explained as the contents of Dimorphos, possibly a fuel source. John, you want to comment on that? You remember that, don't you?
Yes, I do remember they did test the ability of ramming into an asteroid. And
Yeah.
they did test that. It worked.
It worked.
And then and it was an experiment, so a bunch of things happened that they didn't expect, including spreading out a whole bunch of debris all over the place. And
Did it look liquid or gaseous? It looked liquid and or gaseous. But the way it coated Didymus with this yellow, let's call it yellow paint. The other thing I've read about, I'm just going to call it Atlas. The last thing that I've read about Atlas is not only is it passing by Jupiter and Mars, I've heard it's going to do a flyby past Venus. And that
that's
right?
kind of the farthest one that is going to pass by. Its major focus is Mars and Jupiter, but it'll also pass by Venus.
Can we talk about Nibiru and the possibility that these are vanguards being moved perhaps by something in deep space?
But I think the Nibiru system is a lot closer than we think. I have a friend in Sweden that normally don't believe a thing I'm saying, but he sent me a picture taken early in the morning. The sun came up right over the horizon, and he took a picture of it, and right below to the right there was another sun.
Yes.
And he sent me that picture, and I says, "What is this?" And I said, "Why don't you start reading about Nibiru? It's not a planet, it's a system. It's a small star system with a brown dwarf as the
I see.
Yeah.
You know, I was skeptical of that, Aage. I got, I think it's about 8 years ago, people started sending me pictures like that. And I looked at it and I thought, no, maybe lens flare or something. And then I started getting photos from North Carolina, California, the Midwest, Europe, and I started to take it more seriously. And I think we should. I think that, you know what I think is happening with the UFO disclosure? The government is opening up it's a paradigm shift. And forbidden knowledge is not going to be forbidden. We are going to be allowed to think in novel ways. 0-point energy is not crazy. It actually has been acknowledged. The United States Navy has 3 patents on.
Salvador Paz, yes.
Yes, Salvador Paz. So
it's coming to a neighborhood.
Trying to tell us the truth. You know? And the Army and the Air Force are, in lockstep with suppressing it all. But the Navy has succeeded. In 2017, President Trump was asked to run for president by the United States Navy. And during that process, he achieved a partial disclosure with the Tic Tac videos. And so it's an ongoing fight. And it seems like the Navy is winning. The patents is one example that we have to pull back the veil, reveal the secret space program, and let people start tinkering with this technology, 0-point energy being the most important. Because once 0-point energy is accessed, it'll
Yeah.
put an end to all the oil wars. But it's
That's
going
zero,
to turn the world economy topsy-turvy.
that
Yes, Aage.
0 point energy is already here. It's coming out of Africa to a neighborhood near you pretty soon. In fact, I think it was Belgium or the Netherlands that approved that car that he's creating to drive on their roads. So it is coming, and it's coming really soon.
Another
That car
point
is
is
real.
air breathing vehicles. And that was explicitly described in the last hearing of the UAP committee, the Congressional UAP committee. They explicitly described UFOs as air breathing vehicles there. The energy is being derived from the atmosphere. So it has limitless range. The other thing is exposure of the cover up. And the most shocking for me, I've been watching these for years, the most shocking thing was when Congresswoman Luna stated that Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick, director of the Arrow program, is a documented liar, that he testified before Congress, hid everything, and she used that term. Dr. Kirkpatrick is a documented liar. So the Rubicon.
Well, it's some parts of the government that has to be in your resume if you're going to work for them.
Yeah.
Can he lie convincingly? Yes. Okay, he's hired.
Yes, indeed. I'm glad we're not part of that.
No, I worked in Washington, D.C. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, okay. I was going to ask Aage if he has another question or direction he'd like to go. Oh, Aage, if you have the screen share, I would love to share with the people the photograph I sent you.
Yeah. Hey, John, you
the most beautiful color photograph. And also, I'd like to give credit to Richard Hoagland. He's been doing a lot of work on this. And 2 nights from tonight, it will be September 20th, Saturday, September 20th in the United States. He's planning a show specifically on 3I Atlas. And I hope it comes through. He's been having a lot of trouble with his electronics and communications. It seems that he's being blocked. But I promised him that I would mention his program Saturday night, the 20th of September.
Can you hear me okay?
Look at that. It's beautiful.
Okay. Here's a picture of on YouTube, we see pictures of this thing, and they got them long, elongated. They got windows on the side, and that's all CGI. But this is the real thing.
Can you zoom in, Aage? You have a zoom on that? Can you zoom in on that photograph?
Yeah.
Okay, yes. Now, here's what I wanted to talk to John about. One of the first things that I said about it when it was way far away, I said, this thing is too bright to be reflecting sunlight. It seems self-luminous. And then John and I, we've discussed this idea that plasma can be used to contain plasma. A tokamak is a Russian invention where a magnetic field can hold plasma in a magnetic bottle. And I looked at this and I said to myself, that looks like a magnetic bottle to me, and almost like a cocoon. If you look at the striation, the weaving, and the different colors. I said to John, I have 3D vision. I can look at an object like this in a flat photograph, and I can see into it. I said, John, doesn't this thing look like a cucumber to you? So
yeah.
Let me
actually, it looks like part of a Van Gogh painting.
That too.
But that's because of the digitalization. That's because of the digitalization. Yes. And as we discussed, Dick Hoagland, who's a brilliant fellow, he's trying to take every piece of data that he has and connect all the dots. And he has summed many different pictures to create this picture. And so there are what is called artifacts in the picture due to the fact that the way he's trying to add one image onto another. So it's but anything we can do at this point to try to gain more insight into this object is necessary. We don't know what the government is seeing. all we
Yeah.
know is what they release. So we just have to work with what we have.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I commend people for trying to derive as much information as they can from the data out there and produce things like this. Yes, it shows a very, very strongly peaked brightness in the very center. And
Yeah.
that's where almost all the light is coming from. Avi Loeb,
Mhm.
who, by the way, is one of my heroes um, for showing great courage at Harvard. But you can see, and he himself has pointed out that based on the statistics of the brightness of the pixels in all of these pictures, it has a very bright core. And you can't have a very you can't have a core that's brighter than the rest of the object and get that much reflected light. It has to be emitting light of its own. It has to
I
have
know
its
that.
internal power, apparently.
Here's a thought. I was watching a video by someone that do remote viewing, and he had a close look at it, and he made a drawing of it, and he said, "There's one thing that it was oblong, much longer than it was wide." He said, and it feels like it is alive.
Well, this was a
That-
Muamua was 10 times longer than it was wide.
Yeah.
But
So
that
this is,
describes my cucumber. What you just said.
that's right, it is.
The oblong.
The Muamua was a kind of cucumber shaped object.
No, I'm talking
So
about this one. I'm talking about this one too.
yeah, well,
Yeah.
the same kind of geometry was apparently in a Muamua, at least as near as they could, at least in the pictures they have released, to us.
Yeah.
One of the problems, Augie, is that knowledge is power.
Yeah.
And so governments restrict the amount of knowledge that the public has because they're reserving power unto themselves. They know the truth, and or at least they have a better grasp of the truth than the public does, and they basically feed the public only as much knowledge as they want it to have, and that's been
Yeah.
the story of the entire extraterrestrial cover-up.
And
My
yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, and we are still running around asking for disclosure when disclosure has already happened. It is in the government's own document. And
Yes, it is.
John D'Souza here in Tucson, he made me aware of the document that is called the Smoking Gun document on the FBI website, and there's a number for it. They say right in their own document that yes, we are aware of extraterrestrial beings and ships, but most of them are interdimensionals, and we are speaking with them.
Yes.
May I quote something for you, Augie, since you brought up that term, interdimensional. As I mentioned, I've been briefed on the MJ12 documents, and I've read them. I have entry-level briefing document, and it describes 4 types of aliens. The standard gray alien, the tall gray, which they claim built the short gray as a slave robot. The third one is cryptid, insectoid. And the fourth one is the most remarkable one. They are described as transmorphic entities. And I've memorized the paragraph. It said that the most interesting of all these EBEs are transmorphic entities because they cannot be described as creatures. They exist as pure mind energy in another dimension. They are curious about our world. And when they come here, the pure mind energy can transform itself into any object, animate or inanimate. And it continues to say, Only once in the history of MJ12 has a member of MJ12 had the privilege of standing in the presence of a transmorphic entity after it was introduced by one of the type 1 EBEs, meaning the tall whites or the tall grays.
Yeah.
So there you have it. I quipped to myself when I read that. Pure mind energy transform itself into anything, animate or inanimate. I said to myself, you know, that vase on that shelf could be one of these transmorphic entities just monitoring my activity.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's so many different kinds of them. Even a rare one, you may know about the Kalahari Desert crash in South Africa. When they came into the disk and they found the dead extraterrestrials, when they did the autopsy, and I got an autopsy report through a Jesuit priest in Switzerland that explained that their body is closer to a plant than a human being.
That's an old report from
Yeah.
the very beginning of the UFO cover-up, that there was a vegetative form of alien life.
Oh, yeah. Since you mentioned that, I worked very closely with Captain Robert Collins, who wrote a book called Exempt from Disclosure. He was a whistleblower. U.S. Air Force, he was with the Foreign Technology Division. He was a member of the Aviary. And he introduced me to several people who were abductees or being bothered. It seems the aliens have a very strong interest in U.S. Marine specimens, I would call it. Who wouldn't? You know, when you think about the physical qualities or characteristics of a U.S. Marine, they're very advanced. And there's a fellow named Bobby Morrison who was being bothered. The aliens were intruding into his home repeatedly. And as I said, he was a Marine, he was a warrior. So he started sleeping with a samurai sword near his bed. And one night, one of these grays came in and he took the samurai sword and just sliced right through it. And the thing went poof, because they come back and retrieve the body, or they just disintegrate or dissolve like balloons. But there was residue on the sword. So he collected the residue and turned it over to Captain Robert Collins. Captain Collins contacted a researcher in biology named Mr. Leavenworth, W.A. Leavenworth. And he took the sample and he analyzed it, and he said that it was a combination of tissue that showed vegetable matter crossed with carnal matter, you know, human flesh, like mammalian flesh crossed with vegetable matter. And that's harkens back to what you just said. So there are many very different types. I myself have had several encounters throughout my lifetime. To be honest with you, the first trauma of my life as a 3.5-year-old child, I was a very happy-go-lucky child until on the porch of my grandfather's house one night, I looked into an open window inside the house, and I saw something that walked out of the darkness into a silhouette with door light coming through, and he stopped and he turned and looked at me. When I made contact with this thing, I went crazy. I went screaming, and I call it the first trauma of my life. And since that time, I have known that things go bump in the night. And I screamed, and my parents and grandparents ran into the room and they said, there's nothing here. There's no one here. And my baby brain said, he's under the house. He went through the floor. That was baby logic. And now we know that they can go through walls, go through solid matter. You mentioned John D'Souza. I've interviewed him twice. He told me that the reason he became an FBI agent was that when he was 10 years old in Texas, one night he woke up and he was being lifted by two aliens up toward the ceiling. When they got to the ceiling, the two aliens that were holding the 10-year-old boy, they went through the ceiling But when they tried to pull him through, his head hit, boom, and they couldn't understand why he couldn't get through. And so they dropped back down, and floating over the bed, they started communicating with each other. And I'll never forget this. John D'Souza said, they look like two dumb plumbers who couldn't figure out why the plumbing wasn't working. And then he looked down, levitated like 6 feet above the bed. He looked down into the other room, and his parents were sleeping in the other room, and they were in distress. They were asleep, but he could see that they were in distress. And two aliens were showing their palms to them. The two aliens were doing this to the parents, apparently keeping them in trance or paralyzed. And then one of them looked and saw John was conscious. And the alien who saw him said, he sees us. And the other two aliens said, yeah, he sees us. And when he said that thought telepathically, they just poofed, they all just disappeared, and he dropped back into the bed.
Yeah.
Ask John D'Souza about that.
He's a cool guy. And
yeah, he's really cool, truthful, and the real original.
I tell you, we are getting down toward the end here. We're about 4 minutes left. Please tell us and tell the listeners where they can find your books and where they can get a hold of you. So just
well, there's Amazon.com, and then I'm on the X platform. I'm just at PhD Brandenburg.
Okay.
And so I'm just trying to do my job, which I'll also mention that I wrote a science fiction novel. I worked in Washington, D.C. for 15 years, so I heard all about this. I came to Washington, D.C. not believing in UFOs, and by the time I had been there about a year and a half, I was fully up to speed that this was actually an ongoing problem because of my contacts at the Pentagon and places. So I ended up writing a science fiction novel where two women news anchors bring down the UFO cover-up. It's called Morningstar Pass, which is just a piece of synchronicity that Bob, I didn't know Bob at the time. So it's Morningstar Pass, the collapse of the UFO cover-up, written by Victor Norgard as a pen name.
That's how we met. And you can find me on Substack, robertmorningstar.substack.com. And I have some very interesting space related articles, like Aldrin and Armstrong found a junkyard on the moon, technological junkyard. And Buzz Aldrin released a photo last year, and I wrote an article, and I found another photograph of wheels.
Like it was the mouth of a cave.
Manifolds, chains. Yeah, and Armstrong deviated from the plan. He actually was not supposed to go there. He went beyond the perimeter he was allowed. But robert.morningstar@gmail.com and robertmorningstar.substack.com, and of course Facebook and X. So we'll leave it at that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, this has been phenomenal, guys. We got to do this. We got to do this again.
We will do it
sometime.
Again.
Yeah, this is going to be good.
Short notice, but we got it through. We made it happen.
I want to leave you with one last thought. I believe in all my heart that the end of this process will be very good for the human race. Our future will look like Star Trek, which wasn't a perfect universe, but it was a good universe they lived in. And I believe that this will be the end result of this entire process. It'll be slightly traumatic, but finding out truths always is slightly traumatic, but it will be well in the end for us. It will be well.
Yeah, there's a few rocks in the road, but the destination is good. I've had enough peek at the future. I am not worried at all.
Excellent.
Yes.
All right.
My middle name is Einar. My middle name is Einar, by the way.
Yeah, so that's typical, either Norwegian or Icelandic.
No, that's the Icelandic, Norwegian. And Einar means, warlord.
Yeah.
I have a very positive outlook.
Half Viking. I've been to Iceland for 3 hours sitting at the airport waiting for another airplane. Okay.
It's a good
Well,
place to
thank you
stop.
very much, guys.
Thank you.
Oh,
And,
thank you
Aage.
so much.
Great to see you.
Yeah,
Great to see
and
you.
then talk to the listeners for just a second, and that I'm going to tell you, go to Amazon and find John's book.
Morningstar Pass.
Yeah, and also go to check out Robert Morningstar, because there are things in there that you need to know, and there are
Right.
pearls in it that will excite you. It will give you to a different level of consciousness when you know these things. So that's my last word. And then again, if you're watching this on YouTube, please subscribe, because if you like what you see, you're going to get in the notification and you will know when the next one comes up. So click the bell. And then until next time, be good to each other. And in the words
Absolutely.
of,
Live long and prosper.
I was going to say that.
Let's all say it. Live
Oh,
long
how
and
about this
prosper.
one?
All right. Take care, guys. And
Ah,